Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are, and welcome to today's session, Driving Agency Transformation and Innovation with Project and Portfolio Management, produced by Government Technology in cooperation with CA Technologies. My name is Harold Tuck, Senior Fellow with Government Technology, and I will be your host and moderator today. I'd like to share just a few announcements before we begin. This webinar is designed to be interactive, and you can participate in Q&A with us by asking questions at any time during the presentation. You just need to type your question into the Q&A text box area on the lower left side of the console and click Submit. If you would like to download a PDF of the slides for this presentation, you can do so by clicking the Slides widget at the bottom of the console. Also, during today's webinar, you will be able to connect with your peers via LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Please use hashtag GTLive to connect with your peers across the Government Technology platform via Twitter. Lastly, the recorded session will be available to all registrants within 48 hours. You can use the recorded sessions for your reference or feel free to pass along to your colleagues. At this time, we recommend you disable your pop-up blockers. And if you are experiencing any media player issues or have any other problems, please visit our webcast help guide by clicking on the Help button at the bottom of the console. Now let's move on to the presentation. Today, we are happy to have Jamie Mangrum, Chief Information Officer and Deputy Director of the California Department of State Hospitals, join us as a featured speaker. Jamie Mangrum has been an information technologist and leader for over 30 years. In the private sector, he has managed large manufacturing facilities as well as technology service centers. Jamie has served California in many IT leadership roles, including Chief Information Officer for the California Correctional Healthcare Services, Assistant Secretary for IT at the California Department of Correction and Rehabilitation, and CIO for the California Department of General Services. Currently, he is the CIO for the California Department of State Hospitals. Jamie, welcome and take it away.
Thank you, Harold. I really appreciate it. I've made a career in the private and public sector of building large and effective project delivery organizations. I'm not an operations leader, but rather a project delivery leader. Usually when the projects are complete and an organization that I work for enters the manage operations mode, it's time for me to leave for the next job. I've run very large project portfolios. I have learned from doing what works and what does not. To me, project management is a tool to provide actionable information or intelligence, and a project management office is the conduit or controller for that information. My presentation is going to cover the high-level benefits from project portfolio management, PPM, which is managing your projects from an enterprise perspective. I'll cover some of the traditional benefits, but I'm going to primarily focus on the low-level and tactical perspective of managing project collisions or conflicts. I searched for what I thought was the best description as to what using PPM methodology and/or technology in your organization will achieve, and a good match for what I'll be speaking about today. The objectives of PPM are to determine the optimum resource mix for delivery and to schedule activities to best achieve an organization's operational and financial goals while honoring constraints imposed by customers, strategic objectives, or external to real-world factors. In my experience, to not manage a group of projects as an enterprise portfolio is folly and foolhardy. The overall goal of a PMO is to provide the process for managing individual projects, but also to provide the larger PPM framework for ensuring all projects are managed in the most effective manner with the least amount of risk or conflict. The following are some of the reasons people will buy a PPM technology system, like Clarity, to accelerate their PPM capabilities and provide benefits to an organization. Easy alignment with project methodology. You can easily make certain that your PMO processes are being adhered to. This means it is easier to make certain that projects use the same proven project tools and processes that your PMO has published. Project demand can be managed. A PPM is a great way to capture project and work requests and look at overall enterprise demand to manage a realistic work output or workload. With this information, you can help your organization's leadership to make informed decisions and perform governance. Standard project templates for project planning. A PPM will serve as your centralized repository for project templates and tools so as to ensure uniformity across the PMO. Planning resources. One sure way of failing in project delivery and execution is to overcommit your resources, whether they be time, people, or dollars. A PPM is a great way of having a higher-level view of commitment both in the present and future. Manage project risk and issues. If you don't know you have risk or issues, how do you manage or avoid them? A PPM provides a single place where all project risk and issues are recorded and resolved or avoided completely. Future portfolio planning. A PMO is a living creature that is always being fed new projects. With a PPM like Clarity, you can actually plan demand and executable workload capacity. Easy configuration to company processes. This is fairly self-explanatory. PMO credibility with clients. This is to me what it's all about. Getting your customers and stakeholders to allow or adopt project management in their midst. It needs to show value to the business. If you can provide real-time and predictive information so as to allow for informed decision-making, you are doing your job as a PMO and you'll be appreciated. As I said, I'm going to focus on the achievable, tactical, and tangible benefits that come from having a PPM methodology, or even better, a PPM technology system deployed. I see a PPM as the radar screen for an air traffic controller. It basically allows for the management of every aircraft in the enterprise airspace without collisions or crashes. Your job is to make sure all aircraft take off or land safely. My next few slides will describe a critical output of PPM as a process and how it'll help your organization be more successful in executing a portfolio of projects. Deconfliction. Military definition: to reduce the risk of collision between ground troops, aircraft, artillery, etc. in a combat area by coordinating their movements. A more general definition is to alter something to avoid conflicting with something else, avoiding mutual interference by allocating time and assets to avoid conflict, collisions, double booking, overstretching of resources, etc. Imagine you're sending in troops to attack an enemy, and you require artillery to land on the enemy 15 minutes beforehand. Then once the ground troops are moving forward, you need fighter aircraft flying above to be called upon when needed to perform airstrikes. Also flying nearby are helicopters on station to carry casualties back for medical attention. Now imagine this all being coordinated to occur exactly when and how it is planned. This is the act of deconfliction. What would happen if you did not have deconfliction? Would the artillery land and when and where you needed it? Would it possibly land on your own advancing troops? Conflicts. Just like the combat example, projects share staff, stakeholders, sponsors, clients, technology, etc. If you do not have an enterprise view of your projects, how do you identify and see conflicts between these resources? Deconfliction, just like the military example, is basically coordinated movements. Deconfliction, to me, is project portfolio management. I led a very large organization that was charged with running 19 large enterprise projects simultaneously. This was driven by the federal courts, so we really did not have a choice in how we were doing it and the timelines. In the early creation of the project management office, we found that we had many conflicts between concurrent projects. Projects were deploying into the same locations at the same time. Each project was run in a silo. We were inundating the end-user clients, as well as the local facility resources that were there to help each project with any related construction efforts. Our customers were very frustrated and unhappy. As a result, our PMO initially had poor credibility. One of my managers was a retired full-bird colonel from the military, and he described a process called deconfliction. It basically was having all the leaders assembled to manage conflicts and collisions. We did not have PPM technology at the time, so we deployed process in a very manual yet effective way. We held a weekly meeting of all project leaders as well as heads of human resources, procurement, and information technology. The leaders also included stakeholders and sponsors within the projects. We discussed high-level project activities in the coming weeks. Use leaders in the room to deconflict issues as they were discovered or arose. Present and review each project schedule and manually look for conflicts. Decisions were made, they were binding and final, and then at the end we would collect, document, and publish the decisions made in the meetings. The deconfliction approach was highly effective, but had pros and cons or shortcomings. Pros, it provided a very tactical view of conflicts within a portfolio of projects. It facilitated course correction or risk reduction. The cons, it was very time-consuming and difficult to manage the attendance of all parties. It was prone to errors as conflicts may be overlooked or not even discovered. It was only real-time during the meeting. If problems or conflicts arose between meetings, there was a response or delay in responding and correcting the problem. This could be dangerous and actually costly. There were no what-if scenarios or resource planning. We realized in shorter that deploying Clarity would be the tool to help us better manage the active deconfliction. Deploying a PPM like Clarity is the best case scenario for practicing PPM deconfliction. A PPM's tools will provide centralized management of projects, resources, staffing, and budgets. Real-time tactical view of conflicts within a portfolio of projects. It'll facilitate course correction or risk reduction or elimination. My current public sector leadership role is also to implement a very high number of enterprise state projects. I cannot imagine managing a large number of simultaneous projects without Clarity being deployed. Clarity provides us the ongoing ability to perform deconfliction in an automated way. Gone are the days where we deploy projects into the same locations at the same time. We now have the insight into our resource commitments, and with certainty we can tell or inform our customers as to whether we have the capacity to execute a project. Our ability to successfully complete projects within scope, budget, and schedule is phenomenally enhanced with the electronic PPM. Now we can easily perform what-if analysis and predict easily as to whether an approach will be successful. Implementing a PPM is an absolute necessity to ensure that your organization has the ability and tools to deliver the transformation that your organization's mission expects.
Thank you, Jamie. That was a wonderful presentation. Really appreciated the information. Now it's time to go to the question and answer session of our presentation.